Hello and welcome to the Spring Break podcast. Caitlin, I've just surprised Caitlin, and she's just woken up. And I'm also joined by Carlos, Martin, as well as Caitlin Penny. And we're going to discuss a few different things in the Super League and Super Lights Championships so far this season, and what we expect for the rest. So please join us on that journey. Caitlin, first of all, to you. How has your break been so far? And are you excited to get back to the racing action that starts next week?
My break has been longer than I would have liked it to be. I unfortunately had to miss the last round at Indianapolis. I caught the end of it on the live stream, but God, I wish I was commentating it. It looked like a cracker. And yeah, of course I'm excited to be back. Super League is what keeps me going, you know? I'm always just looking forward to the next every other Thursday, if that makes sense. And I get to waffle about cars. I get to shout and be excited. I get to wake up my neighbors. It's a great time.
Absolutely. Carlos, welcome back again. This is Carlos's baby, the podcast. So are you excited to talk for the next? Let's try and make it less than 3 hours.
Yeah, let's try to make it less than 3 hours. I'm excited to come back. I had a nice 10-day vacation outside everything related to sim racing, so that's really nice. And now it's just time to some podcasting, and yeah, let's enjoy about it.
Absolutely. Let's just recap what's happened so far this season. I think we should start with Super Lights. Shall we start with Super Lights and just have a quick look
Yes.
at what happened so far this season in Super Lights? So let's first go to the championship standings for the drivers. Or the teams, fine. We'll go to the
Or the
teams
teams,
first.
or
Or
the
the
drivers.
drivers. So Ruben Macheda, after missing the first round of the season, it has a fairly substantial lead in the championship. And Carlos, he's done really well, hasn't he, to come into the championship and consistently get really good results.
Yeah, he has won 2 races out of 6. So, and he has done 4 podiums out of the 5 participations he has got. So clearly has been the most dominating driver so far. Then we can see also Jose Soriano, who is a new entry for GPVWC environment, and he also won 2 races. And the difference with Mechele is that he has only done 3 podiums compared to the German driver. He's been a bit more inconsistent with 2 disconnections and a bit of a lower performance compared to the German driver in the USA, but fairly close at the end overall, I would say, even though the points are a bit of a big gap. And then we can see Jan Dragoon in P3. He has done 3 podiums, like the rest, like Jose Soriano, for example. And he has been, whenever he finished, consistently in the top 5 with also 2 DNFs so far.
And we were looking at the championship before the season started. And of course, we're not going to go back and go through all of our predictions, but it is interesting to see Macheda at the top. I don't think any of us thought that might be the case, Caitlin, and to see him there for Optimal doing so well is, for me, is a little bit. It's a bit interesting how he's come in and had such good pace, especially the last 4 rounds.
It's not a massive surprise to me. I've always believed in Ruben Machete, but I have to admit, the extent at which he's taken this championship by the horns is what has been the surprise. You know, as you mentioned, he missed the first round at Australia, and missing a round can be curtains for a championship challenge. But he has really taken the series by storm since then. 2 victories in a row, Saudi and Spain, 4 podiums in a row, and Jose Soriano in second place. He's been fantastic as well. You know, he was one of the favorites going into the year, but Machete's nearly a full win's worth ahead in terms of points, and realistically, he is going to be the one to beat for the whole of the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think he's absolutely got the form going into the sort of summer season, if you like. Teams wise, we'll have a quick look at the teams. I know we've already brought it up, but Optimal dominating thanks to Macheda and of course Joseph Herlock, who was P5. He's P5 in the driving standings so far, with 2 podiums to his name. Optimal coming into the championship and doing really well is certainly certainly been great for the series. We've had a few move up from Superlights to Super League, Carlos, and yeah, I think they've got two strong drivers who are doing really well.
Yeah, we predicted to be the contenders, no? That we were predicting True North to being the favorite so far for the season with the lineup of Dragoon and Norbert Jakob. But at the end, Optimina has performed super well, and they won two races. They've done 1-2s at Jeddah. They recovered so well from maybe the first rounds were not as strong maybe as how the last three races they did. So yeah, they improved so much. And yeah, I was expecting them to be strong. I was expecting Meshede to, of course, he's a Super League caliber driver to contest for it. And maybe the question was more like, can maybe Optiminal keep up with the development that maybe True North can do because of having RD points from last year, which can maybe make the difference from now on.
Yeah. And how do you feel about Netrix? Obviously, very close to your, I mean, literally on your chest. How do you feel about your performance so far, being P3 currently in the standings, and with Soriano having those disconnection issues, is that solved? Is that something that could plague him for the rest of the championship?
Feel as a team, we didn't expect to win any race this year. The expectation was maybe to pick up some podiums, and so we are already overachieved, no, this season, I would say. But of course, things you need to adapt, no expectations. As soon as you see how things are going, and I think every team does that, right? You see how round one, round two, round three goes, and then you start adapting things, right? I think Netrex will suffer the same as Optiminal. They will be able to develop less compared to True North. So I'm expecting True North to maybe go up the rise, maybe in the upcoming races, but it will depend on the developing pathing they choose. And regarding Jose, we don't know if it's solved. We didn't change anything. There was nothing to change, and he just didn't disconnect at the US, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully he solved that for the rest of the season moving forwards. Right, Caitlin, Super League. Now, it's been an exciting season so far. Certainly for me, one of the closest, especially in qualifying. It's been super close. So let's have a little look at the current standings for that. So drivers wise, I mean, there's kind of a predictable name right at the top, but it hasn't really been like that, has it? The story is a bit more convoluted than that.
Yeah, and actually, it's not as predictable as it might have sounded, especially at the start of the season, saying Jan Grankvist right at the top. You have to keep into consideration he's never committed to the full season. He's never said that he's going to do the full season. And at the end of last year, we thought that he wasn't going to do this season at all. So the fact that he has done it, and the fact that he has, kept on winning races, and he's put in the effort to build this lead that he's got. It's good stuff. I'm very glad to see it. Second place, of course, Loic Meunier. What a surprise! I mean, we'll talk about our surprises of the season so far in just a little bit. But Loic Meunier, when he got that first win in Japan, it was kind of a moment of what are we watching here? And of course, set up a bit of a championship fight which petered out for a little while, but seems to have come back now with Jan, unfortunately having a few little incidents in Saudi and Spain, and now there's just 8 points between them in terms of the championship standings. As you say as well, Tom Stevens hot on their heels, Matthew Williams seeking his first win. It's been a good one. It's going to continue to be close as anything, especially as you say in qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, Meunier has really done really well this season. He missed the first round through lack of connection, I believe. So even with that extra round, he might be actually at the top of the standings right now. Interesting to see. I mean, we talked about it in the preseason podcast. THR being, potentially being dominant, and that hasn't happened so far this season. And if you look at where Jarl Tyen is, P6 in the championship and Tom P3, I think we would all have expected them to be a bit higher. Shimmer Frelick though has done very well, Carlos, hasn't he? And absolutely P5 he's been really consistent. Apart from what happened to him in Spain, where he DNF'd the rest of the results, he's been pretty good.
Yeah, he's been pretty good. Every time he has been using a competitive engine, he was up there. Spain, he was using one of the old engines you need to choose across the whole season, and it didn't go well for him. So yeah, it just made him go back and to eventually DNF. But regarding THR, when we see the team standings at the end, we see THR with quite a substantial lead. I think the gaps are, yeah, the position, it's not fair to take it with the positions because everything is pretty tight. We can see THR leading by 12 points, and then TOP Esports being third place, and Adonis Engineering also being fairly close to this battle as well. And yeah, we can see that maybe THR is the only team that they have right now two drivers that are consistently in the top, right? When you see Super Venturi, you have Jan leading the championship, and then you have Yuka Pekka out of the top 10. You see TOP Esports with Shimon being in the top 5, and then you can see myself being out of the top 10. With the Donis, you can see also similarly, you can see Matthew Williams in this top 4, and then you can see Robin out of the top 10 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the same for Spark and Road to Formula and so on. So I think THR, and that's why in the predictions we said it was the leading force. They are the only lineup that they have two very capable drivers to be up there fighting. Yeah, well, there are up and downs this season. It's super tight, as we mentioned. So I think it's pretty normal. We see the standings changing constantly, I would say.
Yeah, I completely couldn't agree more. Right, let's go to Super Lights again and start talking about who we think has done well this season, who we think has perhaps underperformed a little bit, and also maybe who we think will for the rest of the season do well. So starting with you, Carlos.
Yes.
So let's have a little look through what you predict for the rest of the season. First of all, who do you think has underperformed
Okay.
and could do better?
Underperformed, and maybe this is a shocking. I think Jan Dragon has underperformed. Maybe this gets to surprise to everyone. I was expecting Dragoon to actually be leading the championship by this moment. But the truth is, he achieved 2 podiums, which is nice results. But I was expecting maybe race wins from him as well. And that's why this is my choice for maybe underperforming. He's been very close to his teammate, to Nover Jakob. And maybe I was expecting more of a leading, leading as a teammate and leading a bit more and be a more a commanding force in the championship, I would say.
Yeah, I think he's still doing okay.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
doing okay.
ultimately he's not really troubled the absolute overall pace as he yet. So it's a little difficult to write him off completely.
No,
Do you
no, of
think?
course
Do you
not.
think? Do you think the underperforming nature of that? Do you think he's definitely capable of getting those results? Or
Oh yeah, definitely. That's why I'm setting him as an underperforming. I think he can be up there with Machete and with Jose.
Mhm.
That's my take, and I really think he will have the material as the
Okay.
car. He will have a great team backing him up, a great teammate, which is also very important for those things,
Mhm.
and he has the driver skills. So I think it's just a matter of time. He just gets better results even
Fair,
than what he has right now.
fair, fair enough. Caitlin, super light. Sorry. Who do you think could have done better so far this season?
Yeah, so I was told before this podcast to prepare some predictions and some kind of reflections on who's done well and who is underperforming. In terms of Super League drivers, or Super Lights drivers, sorry, that are underperforming, I don't really feel like I've seen enough to kind of make that harsh judgment. There are some obvious drivers that stand out. You could say maybe we thought Philip Pushke would be leading the championship by now, or maybe there are some other drivers who you would have expected to do a little bit better. But to be honest, I don't think I've necessarily seen enough of Super Lights just yet to make that judgment. So really sorry, but I think I'm gonna have to abstain from this one.
That's okay. I mean, I'm happy to call people out. So I've put down David Fidek, and hopefully that will come up now on the screen. David Fidek for me has joined Lunark as a 2-time Super League champion. There we go. And for me, he's a great guy, really good guy. Just hasn't quite got the handle of these cars yet this season. And if we have a look at his results, so obviously he joined a little bit late, perhaps doesn't have quite as much knowledge of the car for this season so far. But as a 2-time champion, he has so far. Why can't I find him? There we go. So he's finished 19th, 13th, and 12th in the season. And I think he'll pick up as the season goes on. He's been a little unlucky with certain races as well. Was doing quite well at Spain and then had an issue trying to enter the pit lane. He was doing quite well in practice at Jeddah. He was doing quite well and then made a mistake. At USA, he had really good pace before the round, and then qualifying was just suddenly you had one lap to get it right, and he just didn't. So it's been unlucky, but a driver of his caliber, certainly Super League for many years before this season and the season before. I think he will pick up as the season goes on. But for now, he scored 7 points, and I think for him, I think he'd be disappointed with that.
Yeah, Toby, it's hard to deny it with David. He is better than this. The trouble is he's very hard on himself. He's a lovely guy. I will totally back you up on that. And he's very talkative behind the scenes. He'll often message me and let me know how he thinks the race went. And usually it's not great because he's definitely a perfectionist. He knows he can do better, and he has been lamenting the fact that he can't get on top of this particular car, this particular type of car. I think he can find I think he can find pace. I think he can find ways to drive around his issues. I don't think he necessarily has it in him to be one of the top guys again. And that worries me with David, because I don't think he's going to accept that, like some drivers go into racing knowing that they're not one of the absolute top guys, and they're okay with that, like myself, I'm satisfied turning up to FS2 races and finishing 22nd because I enjoy it. But when you have someone like David, who is a former world champion and knows that they are better, or at least have been better, I can understand that it's a tough pill to swallow, realizing that you're not at the top of your game anymore, especially when you feel that some of that is down to the car that you're driving.
Yeah, I mean, it's sorry, just quickly, it is something he's definitely saying that the car is not working for him. So, yeah, I think hopefully he can get on top of it. Go on, Carlos.
Yeah, what I was about to say. When you see Lunark and you see Kings, that are two teams that work together, and you put next to him the Luke Mitchell performances we see, right? Luke is doing fantastic this season. I think he has what is necessary to perform. Maybe it just takes some time and maybe mental strength to just adapt to things. It will eventually come for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I could have put anything in the underperforming. To be fair, I could have put Lunark, Kings, Fidek, Quint. I think with the the group, obviously Lunark and Kings work with THR and FTR. Obviously doesn't completely translate to Superlights, but I think we all thought we might do a little bit better than we are doing, considering we've got the reigning FS1 champion and FS2 champion a couple of seasons ago for Luke Mitchell. Scott is very quick on his day. It didn't work out for the other Herlock, if you like, but bringing in Fidek, he's a 2-time champion. Hopefully the results recover for us, but we will see. Right, let's move on to who we think has been a surprise of this season so far in Superlights. I'd like to go first. Yeah, a good surprise. I'd like to be first on this one. So for me, it's Ruven Machida, and I think there are some very good drivers in Superlights. Certainly, we saw that right at the start of the season with Soriano. I thought, same as you, Carlos, I thought Dragoon would perhaps do a little bit better than he has done. But having had Ruven at our team in Super League level, he's really stepped up this season and flourished under some very good management, so I've heard. So yeah, I think for me it's Machida who's done very well this season and been a kind of exceeded expectations. I don't know what you think, Carlos.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised about Ruven because we have seen what he's capable at, right? We have seen it in different seasons of Super League. Maybe he just needed the maturity. For me, it doesn't surprise me because I value him very high already, and for me, he was with Dragoon maybe the best two guns here in this season. So it doesn't really surprise me. I think it's performing super good, and yeah, it is probably where he deserves to be right now.
I think just one little caveat: he's also done really well in the Super League race he did so far this season as well.
Yeah,
So
in
it's
P5 in
obviously
Australia.
yeah, and that's the championship round that everyone did the most practice for. So yeah, I think Ruven overall has done really well this season, and that's who I've picked. Caitlin, what was your choice?
Okay, so for my good surprise of SL2, I have gone for driving standards in general. I know this is a little bit left field, but you did say that we could pick anything. It didn't have to be a
Yeah.
driver per se.
No, I like it.
Yeah.
So, once again, I have to admit, I have not seen every SL2 race so far this year, but I have seen the last two, and I was impressed. Sorry, I've seen USA, and I was impressed. I've seen either Turkey or Japan, possibly both of them. Yeah, okay, not 100% clean, but we've seen worse. You know, I'm reminded of Australia a few years ago where we had a massive pile up, and then the next race after that where we had a massive pile up.
Yeah.
And you kind of come to expect that when you're tuning into a series as hotly contested as Super Lights. And I actually think they've done a pretty good job this year. I very much hope I'm not cursing anything going into Canada, Britain, etc. Canada in particular has a big opportunity for pile-ups. It's quite narrow, so let's see how that goes.
I was trying to check right now on the sites the DCs, but I didn't have time to check all of them. I don't remember any particularly bad situation, at
Mhm.
least right now from my mind. Maybe there are some of them, but they're not like huge ones, at least so far, I would say. I remember, well, we praised Remco like for a manager, right? Like some blue flags regarding Remco in round one. I remember, I kind of he forgot, to move out of the way. But yeah, I would say in general, yeah, there have been good driving standards, and there has been very aggressive driving in Jeddah, I remember, with a lot of overtakes, and there were no complaints about the drivers. So there, I think it's ironically a pretty mature field where, yeah, they accept that mistakes can happen and they just shake hands after the race and they move from it.
I think it's interesting, Caitlin. I think when you see a lot of teams move from Super Lights up to Super League, you expect maybe the standard, because they've got to be filled right from teams further below. You might expect the standards to maybe go down a little bit. We had a lot of teams move up from Super Lights to Super League. And I agree with you. I think the standards has been better. I commentated on the whole season in 2023, and it was awful. There are a lot of teams at the back that aren't in the series anymore. That there was some shocking driving in Super Lights, which I called out on the actual broadcast. There was probably one of the worst rejoins I've ever seen in my life. In that series, I think it was Suzuka.
That was horrendous.
And
Yeah.
Canada, there was a couple of huge incidents at Canada that were just crazy. And of course last year we had the Imola pile-up as well that wiped out something like.
But that was
half the field.
unfortunate. If you're
Yes,
it's
but it was
just
still
unfortunate things.
Yes, of course, but it's still that hasn't happened this season, so it's definitely improved. So yeah, I think that's a fair shout. You don't agree, Carlos? 100%.
Yeah, it's for sure. So I think it's my time for the good surprise, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
my good surprise for SL2 is Fusion Racing as a team. I think we neither of us expected Fusion to be fighting for the podiums like they were doing in Jeddah with Maxime. And yeah, they did a driver swap in the last two races with Lucas Murno, performing really, really well in his debut in Barcelona, and then eventually winning in the US as well. So I think you cannot only say Lucas because they, since round 4, they started going on the rise, which goes together with the Optiminal also. They started going on the rise from round 4 onwards. But yeah, I would say Fusion Racing has been doing very well. They were one of the teams who also developed more the car on RD wise. So I also think that they carried points from last year, and that allows them to spend more as well. So yeah, I think that is my good surprise. There are of course honorable mentions. My honorable mention is for sure Jose, as a rookie to be up there fighting for the championship is my honorable mention.
Yeah, I think Lucas Murno's come in, hasn't he, and done really well for Fusion, and I think he's won a race last time out at the USA. So yeah, absolutely. Fusion are absolutely a good surprise as well. I think we all made good choices there. We all kind of agree, but we all chose different things.
Yeah, that's the point, right?
Yeah. Okay, so we've now got a section called On the Rise. So, Caitlin, who do you think is likely to go like this throughout the season?
I partly put this in to see his Sorry, we're talking about super lights, aren't we? I've just spoiled
Yes.
something.
Yes.
No, don't worry.
Okay,
I
No,
didn't
you
hear
haven't.
anything.
let's put in Yan Dragoon. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that Yan Dragoon has been slightly underperforming. Now, that is not a criticism of how he's actually been performing. That's just because the expectations were so high. You know, if you say that someone's been underperforming as per expectations, that means there were expectations there in the first place. I can't see him going any further down than third place. I can absolutely see him going up. So with Yan Dragoon being the top Super Lights driver yet to score a win yet this year, it kind of feels overdue. I would expect to see him win maybe as early as next time out in Canada. I'm going to say that. Yeah, let's watch out for a Yan Dragoon victory in Canada to pick up his championship fight from there.
I think that makes sense. I think he's underperformed so far, and I think he could definitely improve on those results and maybe battle for the championship. What do you think about that one, Carlos? Because obviously he was your one who you thought was underperforming. So
Yeah, definitely. I think it will get tighter. When I think about the True North car and how the characteristics of the car are, I don't think it will be in Canada. I think it will be more in a track like Silverstone, a track like Nürburgring. They have a car that is not the fastest on straights, let's put it that way. And I think it's more suitable for higher speed corners. But I think, for sure he will be on the rise, and you can never count them out for sure.
fair. Obviously, we're talking about the upgrades there, and everyone's gone slightly different directions. So if you want to have a look at that, it is on the GPVWC website just before the rounds. You can have a look on I think it's usually the Sunday that it gets updated. So anyway, moving on to my choice, who I think is on the rise. I was torn. There's a couple of different people, but I think I'll go Jose Soriano because he's had a huge dip in form, and I think he had those 2 DNFs. Of course, it's not really form, but he had 2 DNFs from no fault of his own, and then a P4 when he came back into it. Having won 2 races, I expect him to go like this and pick back up, and especially for someone coming into the championship, he's definitely on the rise, and I expect to see him potentially in Super League next season. Actually, on the back of how he's doing, but we're early days. But that's what I think.
Yeah, well, if I may answer to that, I will say that my on the rise choice is Jose Soriano as well. So here is our first point that we are at the same stage. And my reasoning why he will be on the rise is a bit different. I think the dip, it is a fundamental issue we have with the car when it comes to higher speed corners. So I think that is something that we need to fix. But his result in the USA, he was very demotivated already after 2 disconnections on. Jeddah, he didn't even start the race. He disconnected in the formation lap, and then Barcelona, he disconnected mid-race, but he was not performing the best either. And he went into the US not like really testing too much about it, and he was up there in the practice before it started raining. He was P1, and I think he can actually replicate a very similar performance in Canada, which is a track that shares very similar characteristics to the US, I would say. And then we will see. I think it will be on the rise for the upcoming races, but he will not be obviously the only one.
Yeah, there's multiple different people that we could have chosen, but yeah, Soriano, I expect to see him continue his restart his early good form. So let's see how that goes. Caitlin, who do you think will be leading the championship? This is a specific question. So who do you think will be leading the championship by the time we get to the summer break? So that's end of round
5
11.
races.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know this is boring, but I'm afraid to say it's looking like Ruben Machete. I can't see it going any other way than staying in the hands of Ruben Machete at this point in time. The fact that he's done in 5 races what nobody else could do in 6. The fact that he is now 24 points ahead of anyone, considering that, a race victory will only get you 25 points. I might as well just spoil my summer prediction now and say I think he's going to win the championship. So yeah, he's absolutely still going to be leading it come the summer break.
I will answer to that if you don't mind, Toby.
Yeah, that's fine.
Soriano, after round 3, he had more than 30 points lead, and this changed pretty drastically. And it's of course normal that it is a really big lead. It is a really big lead, but I think changes can occur pretty fast, and a bad race can just do all these things. Although I will say my prediction who is going to be leading around 11, and it's Ruben Machete as well. I think Machete will be leading by around 11, but I think that maybe this lead will be shorter than what is now, and we will have a very tight fight for the championship, which right now it is very unpredictable to me to put a leader, and this can go with Jose and Jan Dragun, both of them.
Well, I think we have a 3 from 3. I also put Ruben Machete. Pretty easy choice for me. He's shown really, really, really good pace. And like in different conditions, on different tires, different strategies, a whole heap of different things. So it was super easy for me. I also put Ruben Machete. So I won't. There's nothing more to say than you guys have said. I've been really impressed with him. He always had kind of the raw pace when he was with us a couple of seasons ago at Nocturne, or last season. whenever it was.
Last
He was
season
at
he was in Green Stripes. It was in
yeah, 2 seasons
2023.
ago. 2 seasons ago, he was at Nocturne. He had really good pace. Could never really use it. So he's kind of really developed as a driver. As you say, I think it's maturity as well. I know he's young, and yeah, he's doing really well. So yeah, an easy choice for me. He's I think by the time we get to the end of round 11, I think he'll still be leading.
Yes.
Right, that is the first half of the podcast done. That was Super Lights. We're going to go for a very quick break, and we'll be back momentarily to talk about Super League and what our thoughts are for the rest of the season. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the second half of the Spring Break podcast. And we have already discussed Super Lights. It's time to move on to Super League. And we can talk about the exact same categories as we just did. And I think we'll start with Caitlin. Who is, or what is necessarily, your underperforming team or whatever it is for Super League so far this season?
Well, I guess I can't abstain forever. I'm going to have to go with Stefan Roll. Now,
Okay.
I was very impressed and very excited when I saw that HRT had managed to sign Stefan Roll and Maciej Winnick. I thought that was quite a lineup, and I still really think that it's an exciting prospect for the sport to have Stefan Roll still competing at the top level. But the fact is, if you look at his results, he hasn't scored a point since round 1, since the Australian Grand Prix. And for the 2021 champion, that is just not what you would expect. Stefan has had some bad luck. He's had some DNFs. He had a software issue in Japan, I think, had to pull off as a result of that. So that wasn't really his fault at all. And I think he was on course for points on that day. But yeah, the truth is that Stefan just has not been there. And I wish him the best for the end of the year, because I really think that he deserves better than he's been given.
Yeah, no, I can completely see that one. I think a former champion who is underperforming is, yeah, I think they should be definitely doing better. What do you think, Carlos?
Yeah, I was remembering Japan. He did the jump start at the beginning of the
Yes, he
race,
did.
so I think he was completely off the equation for. Even though what happened in a few corners later, maybe would have give him the chance to score points, but he was not performing well in qualifying. And this year, as we can see, everything is super tight. 1/10 makes you drop 7, 8, 9 places. So yeah, when you don't perform well in qualifying, then the race is a bit of a lottery. It could be red, it could be black, and it just went for him not great. So when you sum up not performing well and not having good luck, then yeah, you have these results. In the US, he had a hardware issue with the steering wheel when he was P8 in the race, and then he had to DNF from that. Then yeah, you can actually give it the reasoning for that. And then in Barcelona, then he did the wrong choice. He gambled for the full wet at the end of the race because it was raining very hard, and then it stopped raining and didn't go his end, and ended up crashing. So yeah, he had the 2 little races that he had bad luck. But even if he finished those races, you can still could mention him as an underperforming, right? Because he wouldn't been
Yeah.
anywhere close to the results he even got last year. He got a podium last year in Austria in the one of the 4 reserving races he did last year.
I'm
Yeah,
impressed that you remember this all off the top of your head, Carlos. But yeah, as you said, it's a gamble. Could be red, could be black, but the truth is, it hasn't been orange.
Especially that livery has changed and in well improved. So that's
yeah.
a step.
Well
That's
done,
a step.
Owen. Yeah, Owen's really sorted that one out. Yeah,
Yeah.
looked like something from 1980s Skittles packaging or something, didn't it? So yeah.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Who was your pick for underperformer then, Carlos?
Yeah, my pick for underperforming, it's Robin Panzer. And Robin is a driver who last year, if I remember correctly, he picked a podium at Silverstone, and he was really competing for the upper midfield, let's say, right? And occasionally maybe fighting for these podiums and very close for race winning at Silverstone. And when you compare him head to head with Matthew, it has not been great. It has not been great. And I was expecting him to be in these upper midfield or in the midfield, let's say, this year, because compared to last year, we may have lost some top guns, or in the past years, we may have lost some top guns like Adam, Jake, Liam, and so on. But we added super top guns in the upper midfield, right? This upper midfield is just crazy, which they can, in a good day, battle these top guns. And then I was expecting him to maybe be closer to Matthew. We all know how great Matthew is, but I think he has clearly underperformed when you see his results and the overall scoring points.
Yep. No, absolutely. I couldn't couldn't argue against that one. For me, it was really tricky to pick. There are some really standout names that have done really poorly compared to last season. Mark Schluter is absolutely there. I thought Matt Richards would do better than he did, and he's moved on. So Crop's in that car full time now. Yeah, Dylan Fisher just hasn't had the pace that he had last season. Certainly in race trim. Yeah, I mean Lalu, for example, compared to his teammate, Vincent Gutt compared to his teammate. But my pick was Alex Lahou, and for me, it's tricky to like navigate to find an underperformer when I've just listed like half the grid. But for me, he completely dominated Superlights, and he just started the season really well. He got a podium at Melbourne, and then he's
And
just
that's
been
it.
and he's just been nowhere. Yeah, he's just been nowhere in the races, and especially tire wear wise, he's just really struggled. Hasn't been able to put a stint together, it seems. So for someone who seemed to have sorted that out and not be such a quality merchant last season in Superlights, it's just not happened for him in Super League. So it was a tricky choice. I couldn't, for me, Schluter is one hand and Lahou is the other, but yeah, I went with Lahou. Any thoughts?
Yes, I have a lot of them. I think obviously the obvious choice for everyone was Mark Schluter, and maybe we all wanted to pick like
Yeah.
a different thing. Mark has had a very difficult season, but I would say Alex, it doesn't surprise me because I have inside information, right? Barcelona, for example, he has a super good qualifying. He's up there at the top. He completed of practice 19 laps only, and he's able to qualify up there. And without even trying, he just shows up to a free practice of the server, and he just pulls insane laps for the amount of practice, like 19 completed laps.
But
And
that's still underperforming though, isn't it? Because
yeah,
he
no, of
hasn't put the
course,
effort in. So
he hasn't put the effort in. So Alex will perform whenever he wants to perform, and he is mentally ready for it. That's my take.
what do you think, Caitlin, about everything we just said? Because you commentate on these races, what do you think?
I think I've been zoning out. Sorry.
No, you weren't listening.
No, I was letting you guys get on with it. You sounded like you were having fun, so I left you to it.
Okay. Well, fine. No worries. Well, let's move on then. So, Carlos, we talked about who we thought underperformed. Who do you think has done better?
Good surprise. So
Good
my
surprise.
good surprise is Jeffrey Fournier.
Okay.
Jeffrey has done a really good start of the season, I would say. He did the podium in Barcelona when he was really in the mix for maybe winning the race even. He was right there with Tom and Loic fighting for the win. Probably it would have been, if it didn't rain, in Tom's way anyway. But when you see the other results, the difference between this year and last year, he's able to just bring points home. And this makes a big of difference because when you see the standings and everything is so tight, bringing 2 or 3 points or 5 points when it's needed is super important. Points are super expensive, so I want to do a shout out to Jeffrey, who has done great so far.
I mean, yeah, they do have the best designer at Epic, so they have had where he's done well, especially Spain. They had by far the best car there. They put all their eggs into that basket for Spain. So yes, I think Fournier's a great guy as well, and has been around a long time. I think with the experience that he has, for me, it's not as surprising that eventually, when he gets a really, really good car, he does well. But yeah, he's definitely qualified closer to the pace this season than he did last season when he was like kind of a second off. And this season he's been faster, so I can see where you're coming from.
What are your thoughts, Kelly?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Jeffrey he's always there or thereabouts, and the fact that he was able to get that podium in Spain, we knew that it was going to happen eventually. I think I'm not sure if he's really going to contend for wins as the season goes on, but I think we're going to see him on the podium a good few times, especially at the circuits which tend to be more strategic in nature, maybe a bit tougher on tires. Your Mexico, your Hungary, possibly even your Germany. Like, look out for Jeffrey Fournier there. He's going to be a contender.
Plus, they will have the best car in Canada as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, they will. Who was yours? Is yours the same as Carlos? Is it Fournier again, or?
Well, I apologize if that's what you were asking me before, because if that was,
No.
then I misunderstood that as well.
No.
Okay,
No.
my good surprise for Super League is Valet Esports. Now, if you cast your mind,
Oh no.
if you cast your mind back to the podcast that we did in the spring, we clashed over Valet Esports because I was heaping praise onto them, and you guys were both like, "What is this idiot talking about?" I said they were going to win races, or at least a race. I then went away and I watched the podcast back, and I was like, was I a bit too eager with that? Like, am I going to make myself look like a fool? And then we turned up to Australia, and guess what Alessandro Maggio did? He set the fastest qualifying lap of anyone and put himself first of the
And
grid,
he also
or first on
DNF'd.
the grid.
Yeah.
Sorry?
And then he also DNF'd.
Yeah,
And
he
then he
also
DNF'd, yeah. And also had a grid penalty, so he was on the front row of the grid for all of about 2 seconds until we read the DC notes. But yeah, look, he's been quick. He's been up there in qualifying. He's been taking pole positions, and both Valet Esports cars have been up there as well from time to time. I still think, and you're going to make that face all over again, Carlos. I still think that Alessandro Maggio will win a race by the end of the year.
Okay, I don't. They haven't even had a podium yet this season. This is the first one I really disagree with. Actually, I don't think Valet Esports have been a surprise at all. Maggio has done exactly what I expected of him, which is qualify well and then not had good results. He's a really, really fast driver. He's had a P4 at Saudi Arabia when he was on pole by a long way. Just doesn't have the ability to sustain it in race trim. And yeah, I mean, compare that to what happened to the THR drivers in that race, where they qualified, I don't know, 7th or something, 5th and 9th, I don't even remember. But they came through the pack and with the race pace, there's no points for qualifying at the top. There's literally no points.
No, you're absolutely right. I am going to stop sipping my silly goose juice for a second and say that you are right. Like, points are dished out at the end of the race. They're not dished out for qualifying. I never really expected them to be like championship contenders or whatever. That's not what Valet were even aiming for necessarily. But if you look at their results, they have been good. Yeah, okay, a few more DNFs than you would like to expect. But on 2 occasions, they've both been in the top 10 together. And on the other occasions, you know, you had a P5 and a P12 at the start of the year. For Vince, and sorry, not Vince. What am I saying? You had a P4 and a P12 for. I'm trying to remember who I'm literally who I'm talking about.
Well,
I'm so sorry.
Maggio had a P4 and Fletcher had a P12. Yeah, they had Macheda in the car
It's
for the
Ruben
first
Machete.
round.
That's
Yeah,
the name I was thinking of. I got him confused. I said Vince, didn't I? Wrong German. Ruben Machete, P5 at the first round. Yeah,
I mean,
that was very, very impressive.
I mean, for me, there's 2 teams that got promoted from Super Lights who are above them in the standings. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from. Certainly, pace wise, they've been very quick in quali, but that isn't surprise. Like this is for me, and I'll show you mine and see whether this changes your mind a little bit, Caitlin. The surprise of the season for me has been Loic Mounier, and he has really excelled this season so far, to the point where until the last round he was leading the championship, and I think for someone to come up and do that, is very, very impressive for me. Especially his previous best result in Super League was only P4 at Austria last season. Even in Formula Sprint 1, he hasn't exactly dominated in 2023, and did some races for Kings in 24, but didn't win everything, and that's two leagues below. He did Formula Sprint 2 last season, got a double win at Canada, but I mean, it's the fourth rung of the career ladder. It's not like it's Super League standard. So yeah, I'm very surprised with how well he's done this season. Certainly, we talked about him pre-season, and he's elevated Spark in the championship standings as well. And Spark are currently sitting P5, which is incredibly impressive considering that Vincent Gutt scored 3 points for that team. So yeah, for me, it's Mounier.
I will agree with you quickly. I will agree with you and say that objectively, Loic Mounier has been the shock of the season, but my pick was funnier and got us talking, and it was a good conversation. So I don't regret going for Valet. I'm so sorry, Carlos. I definitely interrupted you there.
No worries. Regarding Ballet, for now we are seeing even better things than what I expected. I think in the race streams they are actually doing well. The only thing is that they get into very stupid fighting and sometimes very stupid decision making, and maybe stupid is too harsh of a word. Not smart. Let's put it that way. Not smart, and it's hindering them from better results. So I think eventually they will get better race results through the season than what they have now. I for sure will see them doing 1 podium or maybe 2 through the season. A win, well, I think many things have to happen to them to win. I wouldn't 100% discard it, but for me, the chances are 0.5%, which are higher than mine. So I will give them that. And then regarding Loic, I'm not surprised from Loic. I know this is like a bit of a shocker, but when you take things like really study it, when you look back 2023, they did FS1. He was teammates with Alex. They were on pair most of the races. Loic was like challenging Alex, and they didn't have really a team who could back them up and could beat them. And then when you see Alex going to a team that actually could feed him and Alex putting the effort, you can see the domination Alex had. So when I saw Spark, and if we go back to the podcast, I was saying, watch out with Loic, because I knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, from an outsider point of view, it's a huge surprise, and I understand that. From an insider point of view, I just can say he is been nailing it. he just had a bit of a brain fart moment at the US by taking a very stupid decision of just hammering down into turn one. But I mean, we have seen other drivers doing mistakes, like Jan Grandis. We didn't see Jan Grandis doing mistakes last year all along, and we saw him doing a mistake as well in round one. So yeah.
Well, Granqvist's, he's had. Well, he had a back of the grid for Saudi. It all spirals from Japan, where he cut in qualifying. Had a back of the grid for Saudi, and then had a DNF there, and then had a DNF at Spain, trying to recover positions from a pretty
trying to overtake Alex precisely.
Yeah. So no one's. I mean, Tom made a mistake. Tom and Jarl made a mistake with each other at Suzuka. You have what happened to Moritz after he got hit by Mounier at USA, had really bad damage and just pushed too hard on that and span, and then ended up hitting Tom. So yeah, and others. Yeah,
but let's just leave it there. Yeah, it's racing, and we see that things are happening, things are unpredictable, and very eventful races, which at the end are enjoyable for the championship, are enjoyable for whoever watches GPVWC. So far, great season, I would say.
Honorable mention, and this is someone I didn't want to put because it's a one-off, but Moritz Kropp getting pole at the last round. He's never really showed that sort of qualifying pace and absolutely nailed the lap. He was so excited about that. So that would have been my honourable mention, but I couldn't look past Mounier. Right, let's move on to
On the Rise.
On the Rise, yes. So, Caitlin, would you like to go first for On the Rise?
Okay, so keep in mind that this is drivers that we think will be on the rise soon, rather than drivers who are on the rise now. And for that reason, I have gone for Carlos Martin.
Okay.
Now, I kind of spoiled this one earlier by saying I wanted to see his face when I said this. So I think it's a big shame that Remco has just cut away from it. But that's okay. But honestly, the next race is Canada. The next race is Canada. You won in Canada last year, Carlos. So, actually, all the pressure.
That's
all I gotta say for now.
I think the grid is a lot better than it was last season. And when you get, it's not like you're 19 or 20 years old anymore, Carlos. So it's not like you've still got like a developmental ceiling to go into. So I think this is the Carlos that we see, and if he does get on the rise in some way, it'll be bit of extra effort or some upgrades that go well that'll help push him that next level above. But I think there are a lot of drivers that have struggled from the standard that has increased this season. We talked about Ruo before, and for me, there are some drivers who have got the capability of improving, and hopefully Carlos is one. I'd like to hear his thoughts on this. I'm just going to quickly throw mine in at the same time because I'm just jabbering on. For me, because of that, I think Stefan Ruhr, I think for me is the one I think who can recover and really be on the rise for the rest of the season. So yes, he's underperformed so far, so we're kind of on the same page, and I think he's definitely the one that could improve. So, Carlos, what's your?
It is so funny. It is so funny because mine on the rise is a Stefan Ruhr.
Yeah.
So we are the same on the rise in SL1 and SL2, Toby. So yeah, for my choice is Stefan Ruhl as well on the rise. Answering to Caitlin mentioning me, when you analyze my season, the first 3 races, they are fine. 7th, 6th, 5th. I think they are good results. And they are more or less showing where I can be about between the P9, well, P10 to P5, I think is where my most common places are. And then I had like a hiccup at Jeddah, and then bad engine that you need to choose at Barcelona, you still pick up points. And then US, I got a back of the grid penalty, and I'm just out into turn 6. So I would say it is fine. I think when I compare myself to Shimon, which is my teammate, I'm always like slightly behind, like 20,000s, 30,000s. It's not a big amount, but when you consider that and you factor in how close everything is, well, it is some positions. I also said that Shimon would be ahead of me of every race, and so far the only race I've been ahead was probably the ones we struggled more. So yeah. And regarding my choice on the rice stuff, he has hit really low at Indy. He has changed his equipment completely since then, and he's been fairly motivated to actually face the upcoming races. And he has done a lot of work so far. So if someone has to win Canada in front of me, I would say it's Stefan. So yeah, why not? And that's why it's my choice right now.
I mean, Carlos
Other
knows.
mentions could. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry.
No, go for it.
Other mentions could people say Mark Schluter, like can it get like worse than what he said? But I don't see any anything that tells me that he can be better than what he is. But not because of him as a driver, is because when you see the whole teams that they use the Quasar engines, and you see GSR, you see AK Hero, and you see Edge, they have been struggling to get points. And the only race they have been fairly competitive was Barcelona, when they went full send on the upgrades for Barcelona, and they didn't bring upgrades to the US. And therefore, for me, something needs to change in the team rather than Mark to he to be on the rise.
What do you think, Caitlin?
Yeah, well, I agree. I think that Mike Schluter has not really got his head or his heart in it this year, and I think that Edge in general, while they did do a really good job in Barcelona, I don't think that's something they can necessarily sustain. But I do want to quickly say a little bit more about why I picked you, Carlos. You've been saying that you think your ceiling is like 5th, 6th place or whatever. To be on the rise, that's really all you need to do. Because if you look at, say, some of the people ahead of you, Tomasz Vok, Alex Laho, their results are an eclectic mix of 10th, 5th, 7th, 3rd, 13th, 10th, etc. But they're ahead because they do that regularly and they're consistent. You've had some pretty poor luck recently with DNFs in Saudi and the USA by the look of it. If you keep up the form you showed in the first 3 races of the year, you will be on the rise simply because that's what will naturally happen. I think you'll naturally rise to maybe 7th or 8th in the championship. I could see you in the top 5 by the end of it, maybe.
I don't see myself in the top 5. I could see myself like being 8th or 7th as much. That's, I think, where my ceiling is when I see the drivers this year.
But anyway, that's my justification.
Yeah,
And
that's all right.
If you do come 8th, I will still claim that as a win for me because 8th is higher than 10th, so you will have been on the rise.
Yes.
I will throw my honourable mention in for Moritz Kropp, who has come back into the series this season and didn't have a great first round at Jeddah, but he was running in the top 4. So you look at the result, but he was running in the top 4. At one point, he was leading the race. And he finished P10 at Spain, but again, he was running, I think, P6 before the rain hit, just didn't do any laps in the wet, so had no prep for it. And then, of course, was on pole at the USA. So it was difficult. Again, I didn't want to put Moritz because it's internal a little bit. But I can see him getting some podiums before the next time we talk. So right, finally, championship standings. Where do we think everyone will be at the end of round 11? So Carlos first.
Well, my choice is Luke Munier. and this might be a bit of a shocker. I think obviously Jan Granqvist is leading the championship by 8 points as it stands per today, but I think he has the chance to actually get this done. I think he just makes he has done some mistakes, but I think he has learned a lot of it. So his curveball can go up. It will be difficult. It's a bit of a bold prediction. It's not probably the most common sense one. But when I see, well, I heard, and I don't know if it will end up being like this, when I see Tom Stevens will be Miss Canada. I don't know if you can confirm that.
That's
Toby,
correct.
but
Yeah, he's
yeah.
he's at a evening with Gunter Steiner. He's attending, so one of those
Oh,
like theatre things. So yeah, his mum got it for him for Christmas.
So I think there are two choices when I enter these things. You can either choose Grank or Loic, and I think maybe Loic can actually just put everything together and maybe be leading after round 11.
Caitlin?
Yeah. So do you want my prediction now, or do you want my thoughts on what you've just said?
Both.
Both.
My thoughts on what you've just said are that's a very nice Christmas gift, but also it's kind of I feel like
Summer.
Tom Stevens' mum will be partly to blame if he loses the championship now. I'm sorry, I don't mean that, but you know, it's a shame he's gonna have to miss the next race, of course. Carlos, I think you're barking up the right tree, and you will see that in a second with my prediction. So I have flip-flopped a little bit. I was initially going to put Tom Stevens, and then Toby reminded me that I'm an idiot and Tom is actually going to be missing the next race, and I completely forgot that, but you are absolutely right. So then I went for Jan Granqvist. However, I didn't want to lock that in because I had also put the championship leader in SL2 as the championship leader up to round 11, and I thought, come on, I can't be that boring for the podcast. So I have also gone for Loic Mounier. Even though he was technically my third choice for this, I do genuinely see this happening in my mind's eye. Loic has been awesome this year. Let's not forget that he has had a similar season to Ruben Machete in that he missed the first round of the championship through no fault of his own. He had connection issues. And since then, he's been building up those points. He briefly led the championship up until the last round, and you can see there's only 8 points in it. Now, obviously, what Granqvist has over Mounier is experience, and especially experience in these cars. But at the same time, he's been making mistakes, and Mounier has been there to pick up the results. And it does take me back to the Turkish Grand Prix, the second round of the championship, where I was looking at the times from Granqvist and Stevens and some of the other top names and thinking, right, who's going to take this out of this bunch? And then Carlos messaged me and said, look out for Loic today. Look out for Loic Mounier. And I thought, that's a bit random, isn't it? Loic Mounier, really? And then he turned up, and boom, second place finish. So you were absolutely right, Carlos, and I can see him leading the championship in 5 races.
I think if Tom was doing the next round, and I think he would have a shout for sure. I also think Jarl Tyen has had some bad luck this season so far, and definitely has had really good pace, especially obviously at Jeddah where he won. But yeah, I think you can pick Loic, or my pick, which is obviously Jan Granqvist, who I think you can't look past him really. Overall, he's been and I wrote this in an article on the website. I think overall he's been, whilst other people have had like bitty seasons for one reason or another, Loic obviously had the disconnection of the first round. Tom and Jarl drove into each other at Suzuka. You know, everyone's had sad sort of issues. Jan's were like blips but he was still like performing well. He had like a really old engine at Jeddah because he knew he had a back of the grid start. Was still well inside the top 10, would have picked up good points. And obviously at Spain, he had his issue overtaking Alex Lahou, which is very uncharacteristically Jan. And I think, I think if he does stick around and have the season like in full, like we talked about it before the season started, if he does stick around for the whole season, like it's his to lose, I think. But I mean, we've been wrong before.
Yeah, of course. I mean, those are predictions, and that is what is funny about, right? Of course, Yanni is the favorite to take it everything, and I still stand by it. I think it's my bet for taking the championship. I just have a feeling that for some reason Lloyd will perform very well the upcoming 5 races, and maybe Jan is just the favorite towards the end. Also, we need to factor in that Spark, being a new team, has way less resources towards the end of the season compared to Super Venturi. Has been multiple seasons already
Yep.
in here in Super League, so probably at the end of the season can go like a higher end on the finish side. And yeah, I think two uncharacteristic mistakes. Well, three, you can argue, because the
Suzuka,
in qualifying, and then I think he was P14 when he crashed in P14, P13. But yeah, as we
Okay.
this year the
I
engines.
thought he was on
Yeah,
for a top 10, but maybe I'm wrong.
no, he wasn't. The engines this year are very noticeable, or more noticeable than the previous year. So it's very difficult to crawl back and to use a new engine in a race you start P30. I mean, who would use a new engine if you're starting P30? Maybe if it's the last 2 races of the
Yep.
season, you do engine 7 or engine 8, which is within the GPVWC regulation, and if the team can actually afford it, then makes sense, right? Otherwise, just no point.
I mean, that's why Tom won the Spanish Grand Prix, because there was a new engine in his car, and Jarl went with an older engine, and the difference in qualifying between pole or
1.5
P2
tenths,
and
yeah.
and in this field this season, it's big, and then vice versa in qualifying at the USA, Tom Stevens was much further down the field, and then gets wiped out in some nonsense. So this is where it's really important to pick the right engines, the right track, and I mean, I'd be surprised if not everyone goes for new engines at Canada, but there are some certain tracks you're pulling a face, and it's a very high differential at that track. There's some long straights and low downforce and heavy braking zones. So
Canada, as we can do a small preview for Canada, right? The Canada at the end, has a lot of straights, right? But it has a lot of braking zones. You are less time on the power than, for example, Spain. So it is a track that has a bit of everything. But yeah, it would be interesting to see mentions for Canada. Edge will bring a super big package for Canada because they didn't bring anything for the US. We can expect them to bring close to 120 points of development to Canada. Depends on how they choose, if they want to bring a full package to Canada or they want to give some packages for Silverstone. So watch out on that. Epic will be the most developed car at Canada as well. And then we can see very different choices regarding the development in Canada. It's going to be interesting. 3 DRS zones, so maybe some teams are actually considering the rear wing upgrade, which gives you a small boost in the DRS. And it's going to be very interesting.
Yep, absolutely. Caitlin, what do you think for Canada with Super League especially?
Yeah, so one of the things that one of the things that always makes Canada interesting with Super League is the fact that there's only really one overtaking opportunity on the lap. And recently in Super League, the trend has been basically follow the leader up until the first pit window. I think that's probably going to be exemplified at Canada, but I can also very much see drivers using each other to kind of slipstream each other, either away from the pack or towards whoever they're chasing. If you get one person to kind of go past on one lap, and then they act as the windshield for the next lap. You almost end up with like a karting situation where you're helping each other to close up to the rest of the field. So I'm expecting quite a long line to form in the first part of the race. But I'm expecting that if the line ever breaks up, it will be easier for the drivers behind to catch back up again. I don't expect that one mistake will necessarily take drivers completely out of contention. It's going to be one of those races that it's going to feel like a slow burner, but then when you get to the end, you'll see the top 5 cars maybe within 5 seconds, and you'll think, wow, this is going to be quite a finish. And trust me, it will be.
Yeah, I think it does always concertina right at the end of the race at Canada, and we've seen that before, especially with the DRS's power this season and there being 3 DRS zones. I think that will keep the cars tight at the front of the field, and it's all going to be about who can get beyond that DRS and whether they do it with undercuts or overcuts and all the rest of it. So should be good. Carlos, do you feel confident for the next round? Will you be on the rise?
No. I think Canada has a very special particularity, and is that one, we are using C5, C4, C3 in a very slow track orientated. And we saw multiple strategies in at the US. We saw 2 stoppers, we saw 3 stoppers. And Canada is more the spectrum of the 3 stopper, and the reason is that the pit lane is shorter than what we see in the US. And when you have 3 stops, there can be multiple choices. Last year we saw soft, medium, well, something in those lines, triple soft and 1 stint of medium. Some others going for 2 mediums and 1 soft. And then here it comes the spectrum that Toby was mentioning, the overcuts, the undercuts. But the first thing, which is really key, when you have a very short pit lane, it's very essential to have track position, because whenever you decide to pit or to undercut, and then you are overtaking the slow traffic, which you will find earlier because the pit stop is shorter, right? You want to be the first one. You don't want to be the last one, because otherwise you need to wait to the car in front to overtake and then overtake. So overtaking one car will cost you like twice the time. So it will be fairly strategic, but if you want to go on a very attacking strategy, you want to be ahead. You don't want to leave anyone else to be P1. If you go for a very aggressive undercutting strategy, you want to be P1. You cannot do it in another position, because otherwise you will need to wait for the car in front of you, who has new tires as well, to make it. And if you are the third one, it's even worse, because you will need to overtake 2 cars to overtake the other car. And this is the concertina effect that generates. So at the end, you cannot just follow everyone, and engineers here will have quite some work as well.
Yes, I'm not looking forward to that, to be honest. It's going to be a bit like Australia, where everyone has very, very similar pace, and getting people through the traffic will be tricky, I think. So, if you look, what we did with Jarl at Australia was try a really big undercut to jump him ahead, and he was then short on tires when everyone else was on sort of softs, and he was on the medium for the final stint. So, yeah, it's going to be a gamble, and it's going to be interesting. But yeah, this week we have Formula Sprint 2 first, of course, on Tuesday, which will be myself and Alex Folks commentating. That's, by the time this comes out, that will be tomorrow night. Thursday then will be Formula Sprint 1, Super Lights the following Tuesday. There's an academy race in between, actually, but there's Super Lights next week, Tuesday. And then finally Super League. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. Final thoughts, Caitlin. Are we excited about the next few rounds?
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited about Tuesday, racing at Canada. It's a very, very fun track, and I mean, I don't expect to be scoring points, but I expect to be giving it a good go. I'm excited to be back in the commentary booth for Super League. I was very disappointed to have had to miss the USA. I very rarely miss a Super League race. And even as soon as I got back to my hotel room, I was checking in and immediately booting up the YouTube stream to see what was going on. I was right on it. So I'm very much looking forward to being back in the commentary booth. I'm excited to see how the championship fights shake out. We got 3 drivers within 20 points at the top of Super League. We got the top 2 within 10 points. Super Lights as well. I'm going to do my best to tune into as many of those as I can, so I actually know what I'm talking about next time. Although obviously I have work and stuff on top of all of that as well. But yeah, I'm excited. You guys should be as well, and I will absolutely see you there.
Nice. And Carlos, final thoughts?
Final thoughts is that everything is completely open and everything would be interesting. Yeah, just can really wait for it to watch every series and to just enjoy the racing in general. So can really wait.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, guys. For me, as a personal final thoughts, I think the standard overall in GPVWC has gone up this year across all 4 series, and especially in Super League. It's one of the tightest grids from a pace point of view that I think I've seen since being around GPVWC, and that's in 12, 13 years or something like that. It's very, very tight, and I'm excited for the rest of the season. So thank you, guys. Big thank you to Carlos for putting the sort of format of the podcast together today, and Remco for all the lovely graphics and doing all the camera work. He's the silent victim of our podcasts behind the scenes. So big shout out to Remco. Thank you so much. We will be back in the summer break. So after round 11, if you want to just lob the calendar on the screen there. So in that summer break after round 11 at Hungary. Some point in that 4-week or however many weeks it is period before Italy, we will get together and do another one of these, and we'll have some more stuff to talk about hopefully. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Bye bye.
Ta-ta.